Hello and welcome back to Random Talk with NG. Last episode, we talked about something painful but real. How growth can separate you from people you love. And if that episode resonated with you, this one is for after that moment, after the realization, after the distance, after the quiet grief. Because separation is not always the end of the story. Sometimes it's a pause. Sometimes it's a recalibration. And sometimes growth doesn't remove people from your life. It just asks you to relate differently. So today I want us to reflect on rebuilding connection after growth. Not going back, not pretending that nothing happened, but reconnecting with honesty, maturity, and self-respect. One of the biggest fears people have after growth is this: if I reconnect, am I undoing my progress? And that fear is understandable because for a long time, connection required compromise, often at your expense. But rebuilding connection is not the same as returning to old patterns. Reconnection does not mean regression, and this episode is not for those that have left toxic friendships where they were turned into punching bags, or there was one form of emotional abuse or any form of abuse or the other. No, we're not talking about that kind of reconnection. We're not asking you to reconnect with people who made you worse or who left you worse off. No. Growth changes how you connect, not whether you are allowed to. And you're not weaker for wanting connection, right? You're human, and healing does not mean isolation. There's this thing some people say that honesty comes before closeness. So rebuilding connection after growth requires honesty before intimacy. Not dramatic honesty, not emotional dumping, but quiet truth, Truth like, I relate differently now. Some things matter to me more. I can't show up the same way anymore. You can't have 100% of me anymore like you used to in the past. And this honesty is not meant to push people away. It's meant to invite them into the new version of you. Because if they cannot, stand that heat, then they have to leave the kitchen. Connection that survives growth is built on updated truth. And not everyone will accept that invitation. And that's painful. But it's also information. So not every reconnection leads to the same closeness as before. Some relationships return as occasional check-ins, mutual respect without daily intimacy, warmth without dependency. And that doesn't mean they failed, because not all reconnections restore proximity. Some just restore peace. And I feel like letting relationships take a new shape is a form of maturity. You don't need to force intensity to validate history. No, you don't need to do that. And one of the hardest parts of rebuilding connection is accepting this truth that not everyone will fully understand your growth. They may not see how hard it was. They may not see what it cost you. They may not see why you had to change. And rebuilding connection doesn't require full comprehension. You don't necessarily need to fully grasp everything. You don't need to be fully understood to be respected. Sometimes mutual goodwill is more than enough. Sometimes kindness bridges what explanation cannot. And here is the most important part of this episode. You cannot rebuild connection by abandoning yourself. No. You have to rebuild without self-abandonment. And what does that typically mean? It means that there is no shrinking to be liked. You don't have to shrink yourself for people to like you. You don't have to, be forced into silencing discomfort. No, there's no silencing discomfort. There's no returning to emotional labor roles. You're not coming back to be the listener, the fixer, the doer, the everything, the all in the friendship or whatever ship that was. The reconnection must meet your current capacity and not your old endurance, because healthy connection honors who you are now and not who you were. So if reconnecting cost you your peace, it is not reconnection, no, it is repetition. You are following the same patterns, and at the end you would say you're following ancestral cycles and patterns. No. Sometimes something beautiful may happen, and it could be that both of you have grown in different ways at different speeds. But there is space now, there is space for deeper conversation, gentler understanding, new respect. These reconnections feel quieter than before, less dramatic, less consuming, more grounded. Because mature connection is not intense, it is stable. And that kind of connection can be deeply nourishing. So, how do you accept when rebuilding is not possible? You need to first understand that not every relationship can be rebuilt. Not because someone failed, but because growth created incompatible needs. And part of healing is knowing when to stop trying. Like you said, if you don't try, rest. Closure does not always come from conversation. Sometimes it comes from acceptance that, well, let me really grieve the friendship that was and then let go. And letting go is not bitterness, it is discernment. Most times, we tend to struggle with what rebuilt connection actually feels like. Rebuilt connection feels slower, really slower. It feels more intentional. It feels less emotionally draining and less emotionally demanding. It feels like a choice and not an obligation. It feels like presence and not performance. It feels like peace and not pressure. And then it reminds you that growth didn't make you distant. It made you selective. If you're thinking about reconnecting with someone, ask yourself gently. Not just gently, but let me add seriously as well. Ask yourself, am I reaching from loneliness or from alignment? Because loneliness can cause you to reconnect with the devil himself or herself. Ask yourself again, can I show up honestly? Because sometimes they were the ones who needed to leave so that you can grow up as a human being. So ask yourself, can I show up honestly? Am I okay if this does not return to what it was? Reconnection should expand you and not shrink you. So you need to move slowly. You need to stay curious. You need to protect your peace. Growth doesn't mean cutting everyone off. Nope. And it doesn't mean holding on at all costs. It just means choosing connection that can meet you where you are now. So you're allowed to rebuild. You're allowed to redefine closeness. You're allowed to love differently. Some connections don't survive growth, but some are reborn because of it. I hope this episode stuck with you because I think about it and I know that there are instances where, because of growth, had to separate from some people, and then for some we still reconnected because we're all grown, right? But there were instances where no form of reconnection could happen with the other set of people simply because we had all outgrown those seasons and there was no form of reconnection. If this episode stuck with you, I just want to say thank you for listening because I know that you're going to share with someone who needs to listen to it as well. Thank you for doing the quiet work of becoming, and thank you for choosing honesty over nostalgia. And don't forget that I am Ngozi Obiefna, and this is Random Talk with Angie. And sometimes connection does not return the same, it returns wiser. Enjoy and have a good week ahead.